Day 3 EHL Frozen Finals. I have Jeff Mills and Lauren Smith with me today. I was trying to come up with a April Fool's joke for you guys, but I don't have one.
I already got one from one player.
Actually, I have one, and it's really not a good joke. My bold prediction, yeah, that's wrong.
Bold prediction
Not
is
looking
good.
so good.
My bold prediction is closer to coming true because trains were hot the other day. First day, good day to be a train.
Yeah.
As is mine with
Took
the New England
off.
Wolves getting a championship Sunday. We're not there yet, but they're on their way.
I know the Avs season is over, but what Mike Tersoni said in that comment about me being a great commissioner but average fantasy guy, add in bracket, add in bold prediction. This was not my
Not your
year
year, bud.
with all that stuff. So, but let's start talking about the 2 EHL games that we have today because this is really interesting. Because these 4 teams all know they're playing tomorrow.
Right.
How do you go about today?
I mean, I think a lot of these coaches, Tim Kuhns, Josh Holmstrom, I feel like they're not as demonstrative. They're quieter type guys and they're business type guys. Not that the other coaches aren't, but I think that they just go in and they just say, their mission is, guys, this is important. Let's continue to do what we've been doing all season long, and just keep it going and go in and get a win. Last time Walpole played, just talked to Josh a little bit. The Wolves picked them off. They lost in Walpole. That was the famous fire alarm game. They had to switch sheets. Hopefully, fingers crossed, none of that happens today. But, I think the mission's simple. Just go in and win the game, even if it doesn't truly matter or truly mean anything. It really does.
Well, you're going no matter what. You don't know who you're going to face. Is there any possibility we see different goaltenders, Lauren?
Honestly, I wouldn't think so because it's like it is all year. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why try to change it if you don't need to? Because if that's who you want to go with, I would stick with them because if you change it up now, it could yes, you've seen them at other points of the season, but I think that could throw everything off. And I think even though they're guaranteed to go on to tomorrow, you still can't look at it that way. You need to still act like those other teams are still here and you're fighting for a spot. You can't just sit here and be like, oh yeah, we're going in, it's fine. We don't have to go 100%. You need to just treat it like you would that they're still here because if you don't, you're gonna screw yourself.
Yeah, it could be dangerous to tinker with stuff like that. So maybe Jack Boschert wasn't lying with me. It is April Fool's, everybody, so everybody be on your toes.
I saw him when I walked in. He's already here staring
Did he
out
give you
at
the same
ice.
joke? Because he looked at me and he said, Jeff, I'm not playing. I was like, good luck today, bud. And he goes, I'm not playing today. And I was like, Jack, I know what day it is. It's April Fool's. But, Scott Bird, very good backup. Played 21 games this year.
And for those 4 goalies, I'm asking the question because of rest. One more day of rest, right? I'm sure their answer back to me is I'll rest on Monday.
Right. Because that's the thing. We talked about it, all 3 of us have on the E-Show all season long. A lot of these goalies like to get a lot of work going, right? We talked about Kulonic. He's a guy that likes to get those 30, 40-plus shots on him a game. I think Boschert's similar to that. Kilgallen, same thing, right? He just did that against the Rangers. 47 saves.
This is getting ahead of our stuff here, but we saw a goalie change last night with the P because
the pad.
Petrucci had a bit of an unforeseen
Weird
equipment issue, so they had to throw in Liam Kelly. And honestly, the fact that I was talking to some of the guys on the bench, and yeah, this is his first time in the playoffs for us. We haven't used him yet, and the fact that he was he came in the middle of the third period and just held it down with them. He only let one by, and it's nothing against Petrucci. It was a tough game. Lumberjacks were just flying out there last night, but Kelly only let one in, so good on him. And in times like that, you need those backups to be that way because if you don't, you're just gonna dig yourself a deeper hole.
Yeah, you never know.
When you look at the first matchup today, Wolves and Express, the Express are 1 point ahead of the Wolves, right? For the other matchup, both teams have 3 points. Both teams have a +4 goal differential. Is there one matchup that you're more excited for today? We'll go down the line.
So does this mean that is today the day we finally get the pencils out here? We start doing it's a little easier, right?
A little bit easier. They're both going on, or all 4 are going on anyways, right? It's just a matter of who is Pool A1 and who is Pool A2. And then you put them against each other with the B guys. Is there one game that you're more excited for?
Honestly, no. I think I'm excited for both of these. I just said that to Josh. I think the Walpole New England matchup is a great matchup. Similar styles, 2 hot goaltenders, Kilgallen, Boschert.
Plus, when you look at those 2 teams, they both kind of have a bit of a Cinderella story going on.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The Wolves came in
First
as one of our
timers.
wild card teams, and they're definitely making a name for themselves. They come in their first game yesterday. They knock out the Avalanche. That's huge.
Yeah.
And it took them a while to get here anyway. They had a longer road than most. And then the Express, like, nobody was counting them out, but this is their first trip here. So, like,
Right.
people, like, don't know what to expect from them. They've never been here, so you don't know how they're going to handle it. And clearly they're handling it well.
Yeah, we've been saying all week, not going into day 3, the new dogs versus the old dogs. The new guys have came in and they're just like, this is nothing.
Well, let's talk about that, because I guess what I said in the podcast was the Wolves and Express is Dark Horse A versus Dark Horse B, right?
Yeah.
But it's also two teams that have been around longer than the other matchup.
True.
87s have only been in the EHL since 2018-19. Railers the year after, so it is a little bit of new dogs and old dogs.
Yeah,
The only difference
little
is
expansion.
all of them fall in the category of being in Providence for the first time.
Right.
I think the Railers are definitely not somebody to count out because, like, yes, they're young, but, like, from what I've heard from you guys and what I've seen this season, they've only trended up. They're doing the right things. They have a solid group. They're going to be losing a lot of guys because they have quite a few veterans that are off to college in the fall, but
Yep.
with what they have now, it's working, and they're just riding it as long as they can, and it's paying off. They looked the best I've seen them all season the other day, which was exciting to see, and if they can continue that the rest of the time, they should have no worries.
And dissecting that matchup too, Neil. Kalanick, now 5-2 in the postseason, 3 shutouts.
So good.
Going against New Jersey, who just put up 6 goals. Are they going to be able to get 6 today on Kalanick? I don't know.
And I have to give Steph credit. The playoffs happened so fast that it hit me last night about Max Morris now being the all-time EHLP postseason goal leader. Kalanick is now the all-time EHL postseason shutout leader.
Wow.
It happened
One
so
postseason.
fast. Like, we were able to track Colin Bella and guys like that over the course of the year because it's just a progression, right?
Sure.
Playoffs, it's just like this, and you go to the records page, and I'm like, oh, I got to update that because
Right.
now he has 3.
Wow.
He had a
Congrats to
little
him.
extra support the other day too. He was telling
Grandfather?
me, I interviewed him and Heiss after their game the other day, and he was so excited because I could see when I went down to the bench towards the end of the game, there was somebody with a big sign that said, "We love number 35," and I was like, "Who's that you got out there with you?" I'm like, "Clearly you got a little bit of a fan club." His grandparents, he said they're in like their 70s, flew 10 hours all the way from Austria to be here to watch him, and it was so sweet to see them.
That is pretty cool. So the 11 o'clock matchup is Express and Wolves. 2 o'clock, 87s and Railers. By about 5 o'clock, we'll know who's facing who tomorrow.
Yep.
Right? As for the EHLP, you can make the case that we get all the lower seeds in the EHL, right? Because the 2
Right.
top seeds are not going on.
Yep.
In the EHLP last night, 1 and 2
Chalk.
took care of business,
Yeah,
right? So
they
let's
did.
go with the first matchup, which was the Rangers winning 5-3 over the Avalanche.
Excuse me.
For the Rangers now, they now turn around and face Vermont, who just won 6-0. This is like a gangbusters type matchup, right?
Yeah.
How big is that game tonight?
It's a juggernaut.
Yeah.
And, I mean, credit to the Rangers, too. They got out to a pretty decent lead. Avalanche, Vinny Calgieri's New Hampshire Avalanche came back, made it 4-3. It was the Max Morris show. A lot of hatties.
Yes.
We've had quite a few hatties. We've had a couple of hats thrown on the ice. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a great matchup. Same with Vermont. I mean, they just put their foot on the gas pedal that second period. They got 3 goals in the first 3 minutes.
Oh, they
And
were
it was pretty much
so
over
fast.
at that
And if
point.
you looked at the shots too, like, no slight to the Little Flyers, like I've seen them play so well this season, but like the Lumberjacks were just on it last night.
Yeah.
They were just like, obviously 6-0, but they were just shooting in bunches and just in the Little Flyers end most of the game. They were absolutely in control of that game. And we gotta say shout out to Seth Dustin. That man
Oh.
took it like a champ. Has a nice little zipper on his ear now, but he's holding in there and he's excited to see what else his boys can do.
Coach, the rest of that first period with the gauze on his hand, and told you in the post-game interviews, and
Oh, yeah.
Roach looked at him, and Sean Roach, our head trainer, was like, "You good?" And he's like, "I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah.
And this
There was
helps
like
me with the
6 minutes
boys,
in
you
the
know.
period,
Like,
and he's just
yeah.
standing there with the gauze pad. He's like, "You're doing that." I'm like, he didn't miss a beat.
literally
Kept
just said
going.
he was barking out the color lines. He's like, "All right, Green, you're out there," and they're
Yeah.
like, "Coach, you just got ripped in the ear. You're bleeding."
And then they're all looking at me. They're like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, after seeing that, I'm like, anytime somebody or something comes near the where I was standing, I'm like, you could see me just like
Yeah.
go down that ramp. I'm like, I am not taking any chances.
So not to go off track too much, but because you just brought up the hat trick so far, and because we've covered all of our bold predictions, we might as well bring up Anthony. Anthony's bold prediction was 4.5 over/under shorthanded goals. He should have said 4.5 over/under hat tricks.
Ugh.
Because
Ding.
we're going up. We're going up
Yeah.
in that number. So the first matchup, though, is that Rangers Lumberjacks, 2 teams that are 1-0, and the winner of that knows they're most likely going to the championship game. For the other matchup, the Avs and Little Flyers, this is like deja vu a little bit, right? because now they're facing each other at the EHLP level with their season on the line. How do you reset after last night if you're either side? Because they were two very different losses that they each had.
I mean, the nice thing, too, is Mark Catron coaches both the EHL and EHL Premier teams. And unfortunately, their EHL team played one of the worst games, I think, all season long the other night when they lost 4-0. So I think he says a similar thing to the P boys about, guys, turn the page, short-term memory, don't even look at the tape, burn it. Season's on the line, backs against the wall, no excuses, let's go. We've been working all season, and let's go. We got to get a win.
I'll be curious to see if they stick with Petrucci, because, I mean, it was no slight to him. It was just the Lumberjacks had that game in the bag the whole time, but I'd be curious to see if they take a chance on Kelly, even though he only got a period in last night. I think it'd be interesting to see if they decide to put him in or if they try to stick with Petrucci again and just go with what they know instead of trying the new guy out again. But, I mean, if they do, that'd be quite an exciting story to see how that plays out. So we'll see. I mean, game, like you said, season's on the line, so I'd be curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah, Petrucci was good last night, too, though. I mean, he made, before that little pad issue, he made a lot of saves. That score could have been a lot worse than it was. I think Coach Catron was doing him a favor and just saying, you know what, your pad's fixed. He came back out and he was like, this game is, we're moving on to tomorrow. Let me rest you. So I'd expect him to be back in, but never know.
Yeah,
never
well,
know.
that covers the Little Flyers, though. But then from the Avalanche perspective, you've lost 3 straight games in the postseason now. Do you walk into the locker room if you're Vinny Calgary and say, guys, we were the regular season champions. We still have a good team here.
Right.
We just have to win the next 2 games, and we're right back in the championship.
Yeah, I mean,
do we see a goalie change there, though?
that was just going to say, you read my mind there, partner. You got Pac-Man, you got Marangola. They split during the season. So do you make a change? Because of that 3-game losing streak, you say, you know what? I want to make a few tinkers. I want to make a few adjustments. Chris Sorello did it with their EHL team yesterday. He took a couple of guys out that he's liked. Angelopoulos was one of them that was great in the second half. It was a good second-half addition. Got guys like Gordon and Santoro back in. So maybe Vinny does the same thing and switches up the back end. Or you just say, nope, we're going to keep this as is. This is what got us here. Believe, trust. That's why they pay those guys the big bucks.
Well, it'd be
I wouldn't want to make that
interesting, too,
decision.
because, like, those teams are used to playing with certain goalies sometimes, especially when it comes to playoffs. They try to stick with one and just, if they're hot, they're going to keep them.
Right.
But at the same time, it could almost be beneficial to try your other goalie because the other team might not know them. Because if that's the only goalie that they've seen so far in the postseason, if you throw someone else in, they're like, they have to try a whole new setup because after a while of facing a certain team, you're like, oh, you start to think you figure out the goalie a little bit. But if you throw a new guy in, that could just throw off the game completely and just change it.
Absolutely.
So 5 o'clock, the 2 teams that are 1-0, the Rangers and the Lumberjacks, followed by the 8 o'clock game. 2 teams that are 0-1, Avalanche and Little Flyers. It's day 3, guys. Let's have fun.
Let's do it. Should be some great games, Neil.